inside your bedroom. We stopped counting the days, lost in the rhythm. Physical silence, no need to speak a word. Lay here beside me. Don't wanna move too fast. Your lips on the floors, sipping on your love, sipping on your love. I never dare to ask if we're gonna last. I'm needing all your love, needing all your love. Oh, when you move, oh my God, you know you play your cards so right. Oh, I was looking for hearts, just in the dirty clubs and diamonds. Take me, oh my God, oh, but we'll hold our faces straight. Oh, I was looking for hearts, I was looking for hearts. Blood is pumping, I feel it in your veins, surfing your heat waves. Your taste is different, somehow it makes me brave. Chemical nature. Don't wanna move too fast. Your lips on the floors, sipping on your love, sipping on your love. Oh, when you move, oh my God, you know you play your cards so right. Oh, I was looking for hearts, just in the dirty clubs and diamonds.
Me, I'm so technically challenged. I almost played the video again, guys. You know how I am. Technically challenged, but I'm making it work, right? So, hey, successful women. I hope everyone's having a great week, great start to their week, right? Hey to all your VIPs out there, just keep doing what you're doing in the group because I love seeing all of your posts and your engagement and inviting people to your groups and stuff. So keep it up. Let us know if you're watching this in the replay right now. Comment #replay, and hi to all the YouTube watchers as well. I don't want to forget about YouTube. So let my beautiful and extremely patient friend Paige know in the comments if you are here. She is waiting for you. She's got an Amazon gift card for you to win, okay? Today we have a woman that I met in another Facebook group, and I'm telling you, Facebook groups are the absolute place to be, right? Such an amazing way to network, and it's so easy to do, so easy to create just amazing online friendships with people. And Beth Stuart is here. She helps women get comfortable on video with confidence, and she's coming to us with how I tamed my fear of failure and fear of success. And Beth, let me bring Beth on. Let me tell you, Beth, I had a fear of success when I first started too. So I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I will remove myself and I will bring on your slides, okay? So welcome.
Thank you so much, Katie. You're right about Facebook groups. I mean, it's just a wonderful way to meet new people from all over the world, connect, and support each other. I am so thankful that I met you. So today, I want to just share a little bit about what fear of failure is and fear of success is, because a lot of times we think, oh, I think she has it, or I think my spouse has it, or I'm not even sure if I have it. So I will tell you that I struggled with it for many, many years. And I would not say that I have gotten rid of it completely. I'm not sure that we ever really get rid of all of our fears, but we sure can do something about it. We can tame it. We don't have to live with it and struggle. So that's what I'm really excited to share with you today. So let's just hop right in. Let's see. So I think everybody can see my first slide. What is it? Fear of failure is a dispositional tendency or a personality tendency to avoid failing, and not for the act of failing itself, but for the embarrassment, humiliation, and shame that goes along with it. So I had a fear of failure from age 15 till about age 35. I had a 20-year phobia of any type of public speaking. If you had asked me back then if I thought I'd be doing this today, no way. No way. And what happened to me, I'll just give you a little backstory. I had a panic attack in 9th grade when I was 15, reading out loud. And my teacher did a horrible job handling the situation. She just looked at me, pointed her finger, and said, "Keep reading." And I didn't know what was happening to me. I don't know if anyone in your audience, Katie, has ever had a panic attack, but you can sort of think you're dying. Your breath starts getting more and more shallow. Your heart starts racing. You have sort of an out-of-body experience. And I didn't know what was happening to me. I think back then, when I was growing up, there wasn't even a word for that. Maybe there was, but I was never diagnosed with it. And so what I did was I took the humiliation and embarrassment of 30 other 15-year-olds watching me melt down, and I developed a phobia. I didn't do anything about what happened. I didn't even tell my parents what happened. It was one of my best friends was watching from 10 feet away. Well, I call her my best friend. She really wasn't, because she started laughing. By far, it was the most humiliating thing I've ever experienced. And when you go through something like that, you want to avoid that at all costs, right? So I just started skipping school on presentation days. I started, just pretending that I was sick and not going to school some days. I avoided going to college when I was at 18. It was many, many years later that when I was in my mid-30s that I decided, you know what? I don't want to live this way. I do not. And so I sought therapy. I sought help. I got over that fear, but it didn't go away overnight. I still have a low level of anxiety right before I present. So it's something that you can overcome and get rid of, but it takes some work. And so it's not the act of failing. It is not all right, let's just say that you're in school and you're afraid of making an F. I got my first F in geometry when I was 15. It's not the act of actually failing. It's how embarrassing is it going to be when your friends find out that you failed, or when you go home and you have to tell your parents, I made my first F. That is what we avoid. And so let me share this with you. Perfectionism, and I think a lot of us struggle with it, myself included. We find that when we are trying to be perfect in front of others, it's highly correlated to fear of failure, perfectionism. And so let me just tell you a short story about a friend of mine. When I went back to University of Alabama when I was 55 to get my doctorate, I told everybody, I was like, I'm just going to go do this thing. I don't know if I can do it, but I'm going to do it. And my best friend at the time at the university where I was working, she was like, well, if you can do it, I want to do it. But I noticed she wasn't sharing with our coworkers that she was even applying. And I said, hey, what's up with that? Why are you not sharing that you're going back to do something really significant? And she said, because if I don't get in, if I apply and I don't get in, that would be too embarrassing. Then she applied, she got in, and she started her coursework. And I was like noticing 4 months down the road, she still hadn't told her friends, her other friends. And I said, what's going on here? Why are you not telling people that you're in school, that you're busy, that you don't have time for other things? She said, because I want to make sure I can do it first. I want to make sure I can do this before I tell people. Now, that's a fear of failure. That's a fear of failure, because if she did not succeed, nobody was going to know. Wouldn't matter. She wouldn't have these people looking at her. So that is how we define it. And it can come up in all different kinds of ways. If you can relate to anything I'm saying, please say so in the comments. I would love to know your thoughts. If anything resonates with you, or if you're just like, hey, I might have that. So it has impact on our self-esteem, or I should say our self-esteem has an impact on whether we fear failure. If it tends to be low, then you're going to pay more attention to your failures than you are. If it tends to be high, you're not going to look at failure as failure. And in a few minutes, we're going to talk about how we can reframe that. So if you're doubting your ability, if you're doubting yourself in new experiences, anybody that is an entrepreneur has put themselves in a new place, right? I started my business only 2 years ago. It was uncomfortable because I had never experienced the types of things that a new entrepreneur has to go through. You have to learn to go live. You have to learn all this tech that Katie was talking about. You have to learn tons of new things. So anytime you put yourself in a new experience, you might experience this fear of failure. But as you become more self-aware, you're going to realize that fear of failure is not really failure. It's not. It's just getting results. And Katie, I know I've heard you talk about this before. Not looking at failure as failure. So when you think about it, let's take sports, for example. Let's take, let me back up a minute. One thing I did learn in my research, because I studied this in my dissertation, is that women have much more fear of failure than do men. And I've got this little theory. I don't know, I've not proven it, but I've got this little theory that men, especially if you're in my age range, 50s and above, men had more opportunities to play sports than we did, or than I did, I should say. Younger women now are playing sports all the time. But in sports, you give it your best, right? You are going to put yourself out there. And if something goes wrong, you just like, oh, well, I'm just going to move from that to this direction. That didn't work for me. The way I hit the ball this time did not work for me. So I'm going to do this instead. They tend to look at failure as just getting results. So I'll be honest with you. When I launched my business the first 2 times, crickets. No one signed up for my programs. No one signed up for any of my launches the first 2 times. Now, I could have taken that as, I better just give up. I better just give up because it's not working. But instead, I chose to look at it as results. I needed to tweak something in the way I was going about it. I was a new business owner. I didn't know what I didn't know. So if you can take anything from today, instead of looking at failure as failure, look at it as just getting results and tweak it and move on. So let's talk a little bit about fear of success. I think that this one is a little bit trickier than fear of failure, because you would think, well, if you're out on the street and you're talking to people and you go up to somebody and you're interviewing people and you ask them, do you want to be successful in life? Of course, they're going to say, absolutely. Why wouldn't I? But we may have things in our past that are so deeply buried in our subconscious that we're not even really aware that they are there. And so we may be held back by a fear of being successful, and we don't even know it. So let's just define this for a minute too. Fear of success would be fear and concern that once I achieve, or you achieve, a new level, you might not be able to sustain it. So let's say you have a bang up month in your business this month, and you're going, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Oh my gosh, thank you, universe. Thank you, God. This is so amazing. And then you're going, uh-oh, what if I don't do that next month? What if I can't continue this? And this little self-doubt creeps in. It creeps in, And you might even think, what if I suffer for being successful? And that sounds a little weird, doesn't it? How could we suffer for being successful? Let me give you a couple of examples. In the past, as we were children, we were, anywhere from 3 to 7, we were building up memories, lifetime memories that are going to last for the rest of our lives. And unless we really dig deep, you may not realize that you have a fear of success, because our subconscious mind is doing its job when it's protecting us. It's storing all these childhood memories, and it's so deep in there that you'd never find it unless you went after it. So let me give you some examples of things that could prevent you from, or even prevent you from knowing that you have a fear of success. Some of these are, all right, let's say you got an A+, and your friends all started calling you the class pet, the teacher's pet, the nerd, the geek, and you actually lost some good friends. What does that do to a child's psyche? They may repress that because it's so hurtful, but you've got this thought in your head, I don't want to stand out. I don't want to be the teacher's pet. I want friends. I want connections. What if you in your last job received an awesome promotion and your best friend didn't? She or he was also going after that promotion. And let's just say the relationship didn't work out because they could not get over the fact that they lost that promotion. That does something, whether you realize it or not, to the way you think about being successful. Let's say you have a jealous spouse. Unfortunately, people have jealous partners. We compare ourselves to our partner. And let's say your business is just going great guns. And in the background, you're noticing, something's wrong. Something is, he or she is pulling away. He or she is making little snide remarks every now and then. They say they're supporting me, but are they really? So if you have a fear of losing that important connection in your life, you may subconsciously be backing off a little bit on your success. I know that sounds weird, but it does happen. You might be worried that your family or friends are going to start asking you for money. I was having a conversation with I have 2 sisters still living, and I was talking with them over Zoom yesterday, and we were talking about my business. They were so proud of me, and I had a successful month, and they were saying, "Hey, Beth, you going to spread that wealth around when you get wealthy?" And I'm like, well, I don't know. It makes you think. If your family members are starting to already say, where's that money going to go once you make all this money? Maybe you have watched your best friend who has had a life change for the worse once they got successful, and you don't want to go down that path. These are things just to be aware of in your life. So, fears, do you have any of these? Are you afraid that your family or friends, are you afraid that your family is going to come out of the woodwork, or your friends are all going to want to be friends with you now? Let's go out to eat. Why don't you pay? Those are things that we don't think about in our conscious mind, in the front of our brains, but they might be deep. You may have had a violent family member and you learned that you needed to be invisible to be safe. A lot of us, myself included, when I first started my business, I was afraid to go live. I still had that fear. Even though I knew that I was a good public speaker, I had a fear of going live. It's a different thing, right? You're talking to a camera. And a lot of times you're not getting the feedback that is so needed when you public speak. So you may have had a family member or someone in your life that told you, don't be visible. It's not safe. It's not safe. That can hold you back in your business. A lot of times, if you are an empathetic person or you are a very generous and giving person, you may not want to deprive people of their money. I can tell you, when I first started my business, I had a limiting belief of around money, because I didn't grow up with a lot of it. And so I had these thoughts rolling around in my head. Rich people, can be arrogant. All these weird thoughts about having a lot of money. So you may be the kind of person that doesn't want to take other people's money, because if you take that money, you're depriving them, instead of looking at it as an energy exchange. You give me your energy and I will give you my energy. You may have a fear of rejection by your family and friends if you become wealthy. And this is one that I had as well. I learned early on in my life that I was not to stand out in front, that I would be better off in the background. I don't know why my parents believed that, but they did. And so I had a fear of the mob looking at me. If we're too successful, if you're on TikTok, you know this can happen. I'm not a big TikTok user, but I'm becoming more so. And you know how mean people can be on TikTok, right? So that's that mob mentality that we're afraid of. We don't want to be too visible, because if we are, people might attack us. Is anybody relating? I would love to see something in the chat. So let me just tell you real quickly what I have found in my life to tame that fear of failure and fear of success. And like I said, it's not gone completely. I don't know that it ever will be, because I want to push myself in my life to newer things, higher levels, more and more and more visibility. Because if I hold back my story, I can't help anyone else. There are people that need to hear my story, and there are people that need to hear your story. So one thing you can do to build up that self-esteem, self-confidence, and lower your levels of fear of success and fear of failure is by learning your strengths, learning what you are naturally good at. And this is one thing that I absolutely love in my business, because the light bulb has gone off for so many women who learn their top 5 strengths and they're like, oh, wow, I never knew that. Or here's what a comment that they'll say to me sometimes. That number 1 strength that I have, I used to try to get rid of it because I was made fun of for it. I was labeled negative terms because of this strength. And now they're owning it. Now they are taking what they had been made fun of for earlier in their lives by teachers, friends, religious people, their parents maybe. They are taking that number 1 strength and they're owning it and using it to build their self-confidence. So I love helping people discover their top 5 strengths. And the way I do that is through Clifton Strengths Quest. And let me just share this briefly with you. Clifton Strengths has been around for, 40, 50 years now. The father of positive psychology built this assessment by looking at the most successful people in the world and coming up with 34 talent themes or strengths. And when you discover your top 5, then the likelihood that you and your best friend having the same top 5 in the same exact order is 1 in 33 million people. To me, that blows me away. That blows my mind. I love psychology. I love personality assessments. I love the Myers-Briggs. This one is so unique in that it shows you how uniquely you are made. So if you want to know more about it, and I would love to chat with you about it, but I do want to end up by saying that I hope this is okay, Katie. I think I sent this link to you. So if you want to learn more about strengths or how it can help you, you can go to this website. And maybe it looks a little weird on this PowerPoint. So what I'll do, if it's okay with Katie, I'll put a link in the comments below when we finish today. And yeah, I'd love to chat with you about it. Hop on a Zoom if you don't want to know more information. And thank you so much, Katie, for having me. I don't know if I went over my time. I probably did, but I really appreciate the opportunity.
No, you're totally fine. And that link is the link that's in this video description. So they can click right on that, but you could also put it in the chat too. That's fine. But it's in the description already.
That's fine. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. I love that. So much knowledge there. There's a lot of comments for you to go in and respond on. So you can go in there and hop off our stream here and just go into the comments, and because there's a lot of people talking in there. So
Awesome.
that was amazing. Thank you so, so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the chance to come.
You're welcome.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay, guys. So before I start, can I just tell you? All right. So some of you might know I'm about 20 minutes south of Boston. And so I do have a Boston accent, but usually when I talk in my lives, you don't really hear the accent. I try to pronounce my R's. But when I was just talking to Beth right before the live, I wanted to show her, because we have the foliage, everyone talks about the foliage. I want to show you this tree outside my window. Let me see if you can see it. Look at this tree. It has been turning more red every day. And this is a new addition. And so this is the first time I've really seen this tree change like this. And I'm going to take some pictures of it later, but I just had to show you. And I think I told Beth it's on fire. And she's like, oh, there's your Boston accent. Because it looks like it's on fire. All right. So let me bring up my notes. And I just want to talk to you guys for a few minutes, because when I'm having strategy sessions with women about leveling up their business, there are several things that come up in our conversation that I often have to coach them through. Okay. And so I want to talk to you about some of those, because this is about, and it's a lot of in line with what Beth was just talking about. It's about our sneaky brains. Like, our brains are so sneaky, right? And things get in there that get told to us and we don't even question them. They sneak in, and then it creates a reality and it creates an experience, right? So I want to talk to you about this, but also in the chat too, also let me know how your Wednesday is going. Like, now we have the first half of the week. How has your week started? Tell us what your wins are, right? Like, do you have one win is that you're here on a training, right? Trying to, grow your mindset, right? Tell me what you were able to reframe and what you've been able to take massive action on, so we can all celebrate you, okay? So make sure you put that in the chat, okay? But back to the brain. So sometimes I like to think about how we view our own lives as like we're sitting at a table, and we're only seeing our life from that one angle of the table, right? And sometimes we need to get up and we need to walk around the table and see things from a different perspective, because sometimes that's all we need, is just a little tweak on how we're looking at things to start to form massive results. All right. I'm sure you're all familiar with the type of thinking, like when something happens and it's like, oh, I'm off to a bad start. I'm off to a bad week. This is not going to work. This is not going well, right? It's just, everything's just thrown off, right? But it's like, in that moment, you have the opportunity to be like, wow, is this really what's going on here? Or do I have an opportunity to step into my power and step into myself and say, no matter what happens, I show up as the best version of me. I get to choose how I'm going to see today, because our sneaky brains will actually try to derail us to keep us safe, to not feel emotions. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, which is really going to be fun. So I want to start by keep repeating some of the basic concepts, right? The basic, real foundational thing to know is that we're all human. We're having a human experience, whether it's life experience, business experience, whatever. And a lot of times we think of like what it means to be human, or like what we should be feeling. We think we're supposed to be happy all the time, or that we shouldn't feel discomfort, or things should go our way. And if they don't, that means there's something wrong with us, right? We look on social media and we see people only putting like the highlights of their life out there. And we think their life is perfect and mine isn't. And then we feel bad, right? And then we see these things, they compound that feeling of I don't belong, of the self-doubt, and the other things like that. Like it should be perfect, right? But in reality, the human experience is 50-50. And I think you've heard me say that before, but I'm going to keep putting it out there because it's such an important thing. 50% of the time, positive emotions, and 50% of the time, negative emotions. Not good and bad, but positive and negative. Okay? Meaning like sometimes perfect, amazing, I'm incredible some of the times, and then I'm a hot disaster mess, right? It's just that humans feel both negative and positive. So it's important to know this, because if we don't see this and if we don't understand this, that's something called toxic positivity. Or we actually start like shoulding ourselves, like things we should be feeling better, right? When a negative emotion comes up, we feel bad about ourselves, right? Like everything is wrong with me. This isn't working. Like, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. I don't want to try now. I don't want to feel the failure. Okay? It's really important to see that this is the human experience. We have a whole wide range of emotions, and none of them are all good or all bad. They're just part of the human experience. And so, because we've heard about the model, like I was talking about last week, the model that shows us that our thoughts create our emotions, that drive our actions and create the results of our lives. The important thing to realize about this is that when we start to learn that our thoughts create our emotions, sometimes we use it against ourselves. Okay? We think, well, if my thoughts are creating my emotions, I should think this instead of that. I'm the one creating this. What's wrong with me? Okay, I should be able to change the thought to create this emotion. And so that's why I really want to help you realize that it's not so much about what we should feel or what we shouldn't feel, but it's just allowing those emotions to be there without making it a problem. Emotions are just so different for each one of us. Now, most of my life, I was kind of shy, right? And like I've said before, my family wouldn't realize this, right? Because I'm loud and obnoxious at home. But like out in public, I'm shy, right? So for me, it was embarrassment or shame or exposure, kind of like what Beth was talking about, right? Like those are worse than any other emotion for me. Those are my bad emotions. So anything that challenged me or pushed me out of my comfort zone, and then that emotion would show up, my body would protect me before I would ever have to feel it. So I just like wouldn't do that thing that I wanted to do. Right? So that's what our body does. If you think there's something wrong, right? You think like it's bad to feel that, right? It leads to rejection. Right? We think it leads to failure. We think it leads to whatever is bad, right? Whatever we're making it mean, that's what it's going to be, right? So it's really important to see this. We have this all or nothing, good or bad. And the more we allow ourselves to feel all the emotions of the rainbow, the beautiful emotions of the rainbow, the stronger we get and the more we're able to hold. Okay? More good emotions, more negative emotions, right? We're able to hold all of that. And we can hold it because we know we can trust that we can handle it. We know our emotions are just vibrations in our body and they're not going to kill us. They may feel like they're going to kill us. They make us feel like we're going to die, but they're not going to kill us. Okay? So the other foundational piece that I want to review is the two parts of the brain, right? Really quickly. The primitive brain, which is the lower part of the brain, the caveman brain, our survival brain. It wants to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and look for efficiency, or just be lazy and on repeat and just do what it's always done, because that means you are safe and you are alive. Its only job is to keep you alive. All right. And then we have the prefrontal cortex, which is the higher evolved part of the brain, right? The part that can plan and that it thinks of all the things that we most want in life. But the problem is these two brains collide. And in the moment, right? The moment when you're struggling, your primitive, your caveman brain will always win over your higher brain if you let it. So in that moment, like you're scheduled out, like you scheduled out what you want to do. Like say you're getting on a live, your primitive brain may not want to do that because it wants to seek pleasure and avoid pain and stay in your old habits. It wants to relax. It wants to do what it's always done. And if you're doing something it hasn't done before, it's going to make you feel confused and then it's going to win. Okay. So you always have the battle of the two brains. So what I've learned to do as I started to like really understand mindset work, as I really start to learn, is to talk to my brain. Crazy, I know, right? Like we all talk to ourselves, right? We all like, walk around talking. Well, most of us do. Or maybe it's just me. I don't think it's just me. But I really talk to my brain, right? And some people I've heard of, they actually name their brain, their primal caveman, cave woman brain, right? Like you could name it something like Helga, right? Like it's the part of the brain where all the negative things are going on. That's always telling you the worst case scenario happening, right? Or trying to sabotage you. All right. So we can name it so that we can actually like start to talk to it, right? Give it its own personality. And that way you can kind of tell it what to do, right? All right. So I shared with you, I had that fear of being seen, like stepping outside myself. I'm kind of like a quiet, shy person when I'm in public, right? And I always had this. So I would have this thought like, people are going to think you're too much, right? These are the thoughts. They're not going to like you, right? People aren't going to understand you, right? Basically, my brain, the caveman brain, Helga, basically telling me to stay the way I am, right? But as I grow in my coaching career and in my professional career, learning so much about the brain, it wasn't until I started applying coaching tools that I actually started to be able to have the tools to propel me forward from the ways that I was stuck. So one of the ways I do this is, like I said, I talk to my brain, right? It tells me things and I go, okay, brain, I hear you. I hear you telling me that I'm not good at this and that everyone's going to laugh at me. And it's so cute that you're telling me this, but I'm good. I got this, right? I'm going to be okay. So I've learned to become aware of what my brain is telling me because it's not the truth, right? It's just on repeat. It's repeating the things that it's always done to keep me the same. And the problem is never what we think the problem is. It's always what our thoughts are about it. All right, I'll give you an example. When I hear some of you talk about like showing up for your biz, right? Or creating content, starting a new technology, okay? Sometimes it's talking to people in the DMs. I know a lot of people get really nervous about that. How about when we're asking for sales calls, right? Or when you're putting yourself out there and asking somebody if you can help them, right? That's stretching yourselves in ways that maybe you haven't before. All right. So the important thing to see here is, what is my brain telling me? What is my brain telling me about a situation? Right? Like, oh, I don't want to talk to somebody. I don't want to send a DM. Right? Like maybe you've had this situation where like you don't want to talk to somebody in the DMs. Your brain is saying they're going to think I'm bugging them. They're going to think I'm creepy. That I have something to sell them, right? I'm just going to try and sell them, right? They're going to think it's inappropriate for me to be messaging them, right? There's all kinds of thoughts that come up. And when we don't challenge this, when we just like accept it to be true, it actually causes us to not be seen and to not propel our businesses forward. Okay. And so it's not because it's true or false. It's just that that's the believing in our mind, in our brain. That's the believing. It has nothing to do with facts. Believing that it's true. And it's paralyzing us because it's causing one of the human fears, like Beth was talking about, which in this case would be like your fear of rejection or fear of failure, right? Fear of not belonging. So it's all very fundamental. Our body thinks we're gonna die, right? Our brain tells our body we're gonna die, right? Ask yourself, like, what is my brain telling me about it? And then I want you to ask yourself, what is the problem? And what your brain is going to tell you is that you're thinking about it. Okay, it's not going to tell you facts. There's no facts that people are going to think that you're salesy or they won't like you or that they're going to reject you. It's not a fact. It's just what your brain is believing about it. It's just preventing you from showing up. It's creating an emotion that you don't want to feel. So this is why when we're aware of what our brain is thinking, this is how we can start to decondition this. This is how we can start to create the change. It's when we're aware. Awareness is everything. And that's in every part of your life, but particularly in your thoughts, right? We want to become the observer of our thoughts. We become the observer, or we want to be like the watcher, like just watch how your thoughts go, how they process, you know? And then you can start to realize that you are not your thoughts. You're not. We are the watchers of the thoughts, okay? So it's really fundamental and it's so, so important. It's how you get to be like that top 5% of people who can manage their minds, right? Because we're watching our brains think. We're not just accepting everything that our brain says as truth. And this is so, so important. And what I have for you today are the 5 sneaky thought habits. 5 sneaky thought habits that are hiding and preventing us from doing what we want to do. Okay, it's preventing us from creating the life that we want. It's like a sneaky snake. It gets in there. You don't even realize it's happening until it's over and you haven't done what you wanted to do, right? So I'm also going to give you the solutions on how to work with them, okay? So the first sneaky thought habit is the all or nothing thinking. Okay, I talked about that quickly in the beginning because, excuse me, sometimes we can just be like, oh, it's all good or it's all bad, right? So that's like the all or nothing. Something is all good, something is all bad. Either I have a good day or we have a bad day. There's a lot of people that, something starts off bad in the morning and it ruins their entire day and they're in bed for the whole day. Right? My daughter didn't go to school the way she was supposed to, and I ended up having to drive her instead of taking the bus. Got me all off schedule. Now my day is ruined, right? I can't do things the way that I'd planned, so my whole day is ruined, right? Or like all or nothing, thinking that DMs are all bad. They're awful. They're terrible, right? That keeps us stuck. All or nothing thinking. It's either one or the other. One that showed up for me, which was really interesting, for all or nothing thinking, is I remember when I first started doing this mindset work, I remember one of the mentors that I was following talking about people pleasing. And honestly, I think I'm kind of a people pleaser, but I've never thought of it as like a bad thing. It never impacted me negatively that I can remember, right? And I remember her talking about people pleasing, saying that people pleasers were liars. She had this whole section about lying. And I just about fell off my chair because I don't identify as a liar, but yet I also people please. So it took me a while to sort of process it. And I don't feel that way. Like I don't agree with her in that sense. But like it's one of the all or nothing thinking that I was doing. I was believing the mentor I had was all knowing. Everything she told me, I had to believe. Everything she told me was right. Right? All or nothing thinking, it just causes us not to see the other side of the coin. Okay? Because the solution for all of nothing thinking is the word and. All right? Okay? It's not all good or all bad. We have days where we're not proud of ourselves. And then we have days where we're like, yay, me. Right? We have a mentor and it's like, Oh, yeah. She said this, but then I didn't like this. Do I have to hate her? Or can I just be like, these are the things that work for me, that resonate with me, and I'm going to balance it. Okay. And this is a skill for so many of us in this thinking. It actually allows us to see the other side of the coin, to see the way that you can understand other people's opinions, or other situations. If we can incorporate different skills into our lives, we can just start to build so much more in our lives. We can start to add the word and. We can just start to build so much more in our life. Okay? It's not one or the other. It's not success or failure. It's always going to be and a little success and a little failure. Okay? So that's the sneaky thought that you will notice. Sorry, my computer's acting up. I'm trying to get my notes back up. That's one sneaky thought that you'll notice that your brain tries to go to the all or nothing thinking, right? And very often we're frustrated over just like being stretched in ways that we've never stretched before, right? And we tend to want to go like, oh gosh, and we make it one or the other. So it's just really important to see that. Okay. All right, cool. Let me just get a sip of my water because I'm coughing. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. All right. So the second sneaky brain tactic is the catastrophic thinking. Our fear brain loves to create catastrophes. It wants to create the worst case scenario, right? It loves to talk about like, oh my gosh, if you go on social media and you announce your new program, everyone's going to hate you, or everyone's going to laugh at you, or they're all going to think you're crazy, right? Like, wow, this is a catastrophic situation. And this catastrophic thinking is very detrimental because it'll keep you hiding. It'll keep you from showing up as we most want to. Okay. So to be aware that the sneaky part comes in, like, hold on, how do I want to say this? Be aware when it comes in or when it shows up, because it can show up in so many different ways, right? And some of these can kind of be combined, some of these thought patterns, but this one in particular, it's like it can show up in your life as well. Like you hear something about your kids or your family, and right away you're like, like if somebody says they're not well, right? And you're thinking worst case scenario, right? Like they must have like cancer or something like that. It always goes to that place. And it's not to say those things can't happen. Of course, they certainly could happen. That's why our brains are doing it. It's kind of the job of the lower brain is to scan for danger. But when it happens, when we only focus on the worst case scenario, then we actually amplify it. And then those emotions make us feel sick and stressed and worried. And oftentimes for absolutely no reason. So the solution to catastrophic thinking is something called equal airtime. So what that means is that you give your brain a chance to go, yep, that is possible. It's possible that people may not like what I have to post, but over here at equal airtime, it's also possible that they really may like it. They may love it. I may have so much to share that somebody feels like they're not alone. They feel like they could come to me, like I'm connecting with the people that really need to hear from me. Okay, that's equal airtime. You're not solely focused on the worst case scenario, because sometimes we can amplify the worst case scenario so much that it actually becomes real. And then we can't even see past it. Okay, it's just the only thing that we can see. But when we understand that, like when you notice that sneaky thought coming in, that's creating that worst case scenario, I want you to say, I see you, brain, trying to create that scenario. And I understand that it's possible, but it's not entirely true. And I'm going to look at the other side of the coin. All right. Because it's acknowledging it because it's a real feeling, right? I mean, it's real. You don't want to completely squash your feelings and say, no, 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 when it's a real feeling, but just allowing the feeling to be there. Acknowledge it, but also give it the equal airtime to both sides. So you don't focus so much on the catastrophe, because the catastrophe usually isn't going to happen. I mean, statistically, it's probably not going to happen. All right. Your brain just wants to keep you safe, wants to keep you out of harm's way. Okay. So the third one is called blaming thinking. All right. This happens a lot of times when we feel like like something's just not going the way that we wanted, and we're just looking to blame others, right? Like kids do this a lot, right? And they just have to learn this skill. Like if someone acts a certain way and then my day is ruined, right? And now I can't have the day that I wanted because so and so, she's just too emotional and it just ruined my day. You know, start to blame things on other people because we don't really want to accept responsibility for things, right? Or because like we don't actually get out and start to do things. We don't start to take the massive action in our business. We find something or someone else to blame it on, right? Like if you're talking about social media, and I hear this so much, not necessarily from the people in our world here, obviously, we're all on social media, but like from people like in our lives, like some friends in my life, like I hear this, like, I don't do social media. Social media is evil. Oh no, social media is evil. You know, and they have this big story about how social media is evil, right? They need to blame it on something, blame the way that they feel on something. And it's actually like, no, it's not social media you're thinking about that's making you feel that way, right? Like, how lucky are we that we get access to millions or billions of people at our fingertips that we never had 20 years ago? I didn't have this growing up, right? It didn't exist. So how amazing is it that we get to connect with like-minded people and we get to grow our businesses, right? So there's so many ways that you can look at that. When you're only looking at it going, no, 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 you miss out, right? I get to choose. I'm taking responsibility for how I feel, how I think, not just pushing it off on someone else or something else, right? So that's blaming thinking. That's another sneaky way that your brain just tries to keep you stuck, keeps you thinking in that way that you're already being, you know, the way that like is on repeat, right? And then when you're thinking in that way, you don't show up, right? So that was sneaky thought number 3. So the way that you answer that, the way that you answer the solution to blaming thinking is just to allow your emotions. All right, when we have an uncomfortable emotion, this is another foundational skill. When we have uncomfortable emotions, there's 3 ways that your body tries to deal with it. It reacts, it resists, or it avoids. So those are the ways. They're not so helpful ways. But what we want to do is we want to learn how to just allow them. We want to allow an emotion. So resist is like prolonging it, like think about if you're holding a beach ball underwater, right? It's resisting, it's trying to get back up, right? And then reactive is like anger, like shouting at someone or screaming and crying and uncontrollable reacting, right? Something that's just totally out of control. And then we know avoid, right? You don't want to talk about it. Don't tell me about it. I'm going to go in the pantry. I'm going to eat some food. I don't want to hear about this, right? That's avoiding. That's like what we don't want to do something. So we're just like, you know, don't even let me see it, right? It all stems from that thinking that life should always feel good. So the solution for blaming thinking is just to allow the emotion to be there. Whatever emotion you're feeling, like anger, someone ruined your day. Instead of blaming on someone else that you didn't get to have the day that you wanted, it's like, okay, no. I think I'm just feeling a little frustrated that I didn't get the morning that I envisioned, right? I envisioned that I was going to get my workout done. I was going to do everything on my work schedule, right? And it didn't turn out the way that I wanted. Just allow that emotion to be there, any emotion, right? And move through it. Let it move through you. I can still go and work out, right? I can change my schedule. I'm flexible, right? Life isn't perfect, but it's allowing ourselves to have the emotions and take responsibility where we can and adjust and not blame someone else for our problems, okay? So number 4 sneaky problem is problem-focused thinking. Our brain wants to focus on the problem. And sometimes we get so focused on the problem that we don't have an opportunity to look for the solution. Our brain is like a dog with a bone, right? If you throw out that bone, the problem, right? Throw it to the dog is going to bring it right back to you. All right. So, if I feel like I have this problem, like I'm just never going to get over this problem and I'm stuck on it, if I just keep thinking about the problem, I'm going to stay stuck on it, right? Maybe I have like a block and I can't produce content. You ever have that where you just can't think of anything that you want to post, right? Maybe there must be something wrong with me. Maybe I'm just not a good writer, right? And the problem just keeps like compounding this whole story that you have instead of looking for the solution. Maybe a solution would be that you have to come up with pillars of your program so that you have easy access to content, right? That's what I teach in my program is that this really easy exercise of creating content pillars, and you end up with like hundreds and hundreds of content ideas, right? But like, if you're just focusing on the problem, you're never going to see that that's a really easy solution, right? Maybe you need to listen to more trainings like this, get some new thoughts going on in your brain to kind of stir up the creative juices, right? That's why I say this is a sneaky brain problem, because our brains are wired for this. They're wired to find problems. They're wired to find danger, right? So try to remember that to focus on a problem, you will not find the solution. So it's just shifting that thinking. Like, now, this is what happened. I wonder how I could tackle that, right? Sometimes also asking ourselves, when we say, a lot of us do this, especially when we're like newer entrepreneurs, if I don't know how to do something, how do I find out? Okay. Asking that question, it kind of opens a door in your brain. How do I find out? You're throwing out the question. You're kind of throwing it out to the universe, but it's opening a door in your brain. What do I think this could be? Right? We have that power inside of us. We are in control of our brain. We just have to be aware of those sneaky ways that our brain is trying to keep us stuck and keep us on repeat, right? It's trying to keep us in the comfort zone, right? We hear about the comfort zone a lot. And the comfort zone, nothing good happens in the comfort zone, okay? So the fifth and final sneaky thought habit is self-doubt. And I know that Beth touched on this. Self-doubt and second guessing yourself. And I know there's a lot of us that have this, the self-doubt, right? We all have it sometimes, right? By far the biggest one, this is by far the biggest one that I see in my strategy calls, right? Is self-doubt and second guessing yourself. It'll find ways to make you feel like you don't know what you're talking about, right? You have no business doing what you're doing. You're not good at something. Maybe I made the wrong choice, wrong decision. What was I thinking? Right? Regret, overwhelm, confusion. Oh my gosh, I really didn't know that I'm not any good. I need another certificate. I need to go get another training. I need to do what somebody else tells me to do. I need someone to tell me what to do. How about no, I'm amazing and I'm good at what I'm doing. Right? It's when we get on top of our brain to see that it's just a tactic that our brain is using to keep us stuck, that we can get past this, right? And one little trick that I found with self-doubt, and I thought it was hilarious when I heard it, was to doubt your doubts. If you're such a good self-doubter, maybe you should be doubting your doubts, right? And it makes me just laugh when I hear that, like, because it's just the sneaky brain. It just pops in there and it tells me that I don't know what I'm doing and that I don't know like how to do something, right? And why am I even doing this? And I don't know how to do this, right? I'm not as good as other people, or whatever self-doubt it is that comes up. I go, maybe I should doubt that doubt. If I'm so good at doubting, maybe I should be doubting, right? And it just makes me laugh because I just have to have that moment. I have to have that awareness that it's not true, right? The stories that we tell ourselves, it's not true. And if we ride the train right? If we grab onto them and we believe them, then we're on a runaway train, or we're going down quicksand into the hole of exactly where we are right now, where we don't want to be. We want to move on from this, right? But it's when we go, okay, I'm on a train right now, right? And like I said, the 5 ones that pop up a lot are all or nothing, catastrophic thinking, blaming thinking, problem focused thinking, or self-doubt. If you can really start to see those as they're happening, you can get ahead of the issue and get ahead of yourself. That's how you're preparing yourself for success. You're able to see that it's not something you have to believe. It's like an illusion. Our brain wants to keep us exactly where we are. And the only reason it does this is because it wants to keep us safe. No need to be angry about it. No need to judge ourselves about it. It's actually an act of love, right? That's how I see it. It's like, wow, my brain loves me so much that it's trying to keep me alive. It's trying to tell me all these things. It's concocting all these crazy stories. It's almost like we're at war creating these things that aren't true in our head because it wants to keep us safe. So that's the foundation of why your brain does that. It just wants to keep you alive. It's a very, very primitive caveman mechanism to keep you alive. But as humans, we have bigger plans. Okay? We have a prefrontal cortex. We have evolved, right? We stand up straight now. We want more. We want to create the life that we want because that is what we're here for. Our desires are destined for us, right? We want to create more impact. We want to create more wealth. We want to create more joy. We want to create more connection. We want to create all of these amazing things in our life. And to do that, we have to be able to override this primitive function of our brain because it's not going to get us what we most want. So these are some of the tools that you can put in your tool belt and you just start noticing. Okay? So many people, so many clients who are in this realm, we just want to fix it. Like, how do I just make this better? How do I change these thought patterns? And I'm telling you, do not underestimate the power of awareness. The power of you being aware of your brain. It is everything. It will actually start to collapse time around what you want because you won't spend so much time down the rabbit hole. You have a thought and then you're like, oh my goodness, I'm in self-doubt. I'm catastrophizing, right? I'm focusing on the problem. I'm blaming other things. Why is this happening to me? I'm going deeper and deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole. And guess what I'm not doing? When I'm over here in the rabbit hole, I'm not moving the needle. I'm not doing what I most want. I'm spending so much time down the rabbit hole, right? That I'm not moving the needle in my business, right? The more you see how up in your head you are, the faster you'll be able to snap out of it. And it comes faster and faster with practice. Okay? So that was a long one today, guys, right? But that is it for today. I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if this helped you today, even if it was a little. I know it expanded a little bit on what Beth was talking about, okay? Next week, I think I want to talk about the 4 steps to gain back momentum in your business. Let me know if that is something that sounds interesting to you. So thank you so much to Beth Stuart. Check her link in the video description. My link is there if you care to check that out as well. Congratulations to the Amazon gift card winner. Make sure you email me and have a great rest of your week, guys.